what do I think about the idea of 10 cents when it comes to RSR? Because previously in one of my videos, I was talking about 35 cents. However, some people out there, they want to, have me talk about a different scenario. So I'm going to talk about 10 cents, even though nothing I say is financial advice. And why don't I think that might even not be too bad anyways? It's because 10 cents is around a 12x from here. Nearly, I should say. And some people may be thinking, okay, how is that good? Well, let's take a look at, for instance, Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin going to do in the next 6 to 10 months? I don't know if it could do that. Let's say Bitcoin went to 300 grand. That's less than a 3x from here. Ethereum going to 10 grand, less than a 3x from here as well. So the way you take a look at it is that, yeah, sure, Bitcoin, very amazing. Ethereum, I get it. But in the grand scheme of things, if someone told me RSR, Bitcoin, or Ethereum as of right now, for me, arguably I would have to say RSR, even though I'm not telling you to do anything. But this is just my perspective, because if I had gone into Bitcoin, let's say years ago, that's a totally different case. But I didn't do that. So then, as of right now, I would just much rather choose RSR for me. It's an altcoin, way lower market cap. There's no guarantees though, but then just the idea of Bitcoin doing a 12x in the next 6 to 10 months doesn't seem that logical to me. I'm not saying in the next 5, 10, or 15 years, but just in the time frame of 6 to 10 months, I would just rather believe in RSR, even though I'm not telling anyone to believe in RSR or anything like that. This is just my perspective. Now, 10 cents, considering current circulating supply, market cap at that point would be nearly $6 billion. Now, the way you take a look at it is that how is that maybe too much to ask for? Dogecoin reached over $80 billion in market cap back in 2021. Shiba Inu reached around 40. I'm not saying that RSR is going to be more popular than them, but just achieving a glimpse of that wouldn't surprise me. Not to mention, in the peak of the 2021 bull run, there was around 300 million crypto owners. Now there's over 600 million. That's way more. Not to mention, even though I don't, want to believe in Bitcoin or Ethereum right now, it can't be denied that the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, has brought a lot of positive sentiment. I get it, some altcoins out there, and also the space in general is just having a slight pullback. But the way you take a look at it is that in the short to medium term, things are going to be very volatile. People might leave, they just don't want to be in the space anymore. Some of them might sell, whatever the case may be. But I don't think maybe we have seen a fully fledged type of altcoin season yet. I don't think we've seen that because, not to mention, just kind of not really seeing that much action in the grand scheme of things when it comes to altcoins overall. However, also another factor is because when I take a look at, historically speaking, usually altcoins, typically as a worst case scenario, they peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. 18 months from April of last year, which was when the last Bitcoin halving event happened, would actually mean around October this year. We're not in October yet. We're kind of close. And some people may be thinking, okay, that may not be enough time, but from what I've seen, even the largest project out there that we have within the space, Bitcoin, take a look at how fast that moved. And take a look at how fast RSR moved not too long ago. So then the way you take a look at it was that it doesn't seem like it's such a short time frame, but that's just based off history. It could maybe happen later, or maybe in Q1 of next year. I just don't know because I do not know the future. But then when I take a look at based off history, when I just take a look at how altcoins have done, generally speaking, it just doesn't feel like we've seen maybe a fully fledged type of altcoin season yet. So in the meantime, because I do not know the future, what I'm going to be doing is just dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting. Literally, that's it, because that is the only thing I can control. And the way you take a look at it is that why would I not be excited? Because I like the fundamentals when it comes to RSR. And I think in order to understand that, we have to take a look at what Reserve overall is trying to do as a project, because Reserve is focused on stable currency. That's the way to take a look at it. Now, when it comes to Reserve, though, their goal isn't to directly make something themselves. And let me explain what I mean by this in a sense, because what Reserve does is that it allows something called an R token to be built. Now, what is an R token, right? An R token is a token that is backed one-to-one by a collection of other tokens. Now, you may be thinking, okay, how is this special? It's because allegedly an R token can be built, right? Or should I say can be created, I would say, without writing any code, and also can be done allegedly in just a matter of minutes. So I find that very impressive. Now, keep in mind though, again, anyone can allegedly build an R token. This R token, by the way, is not predetermined as to what it has to be backed by when it comes to reserve. It's not like they're saying, hey, if you want to make an R token, it has to be backed by this and that. No, that's not the case. The creator of that R token chooses itself. Like, for instance, a popular R token is something called EUSD. Now, EUSD is backed by a combination of USDT, USDC, so that's just an example there, but I'm just saying. And again, when it comes to these R tokens, how is it even relevant? Some people may be wondering when it comes to RSR. Now, personally, for instance, as an RSR holder, I can choose which R token I want to stake my RSR on. Now, again, reserve does not determine which R token I have to believe in. I can just take a look at the R tokens and see which ones I believe in, and then stake my RSR on that R token in which I do believe in. And it's not like I just can only choose one. Let's say I want to have 20% in this R token, 20% in this other R token, whatever the case may be. It's totally dependent on, the situation, right? It's not predetermined again by reserve. Not to mention, if we take a look at, RSR by being staked on this R token, quite essentially it acts as like a governance token for that R token. And of course, by staking, hypothetically, rewards, right? So then the way I take a look at it is that it's kind of no different really than me staking, for instance, ADA, which is Cardano's native token. However, in this case, there's a little bit of a difference because this is like for R tokens, right? And then again, I can choose which R token I want to stake my RSR on. However, besides all that, I think Reserve overall doesn't seem like an overly complicated project to me. It seems to me very easy to understand, at least, because I don't think it takes like 20, 30, or 40 minutes for me to really understand what it's all about, because some other projects out there, it's just kind of overly complicated for no reason. It's like, okay, we get it. It's focused on blockchain gaming, but why overcomplicate it? Reserve, I think in a sense, it's revolutionary, but then I find it very simple and easy to understand. And I think this is actually a good thing because arguably, I think for someone to kind of even look at a project or somewhat, maybe know what it's all about, they have to understand what it is, right? So if it's overly complicated, I don't think that's a good thing. So I do like this when it comes to Reserve. Now, arguably, though, when it comes to this, I think it's focused on something called the payments market, again, Reserve. The payments market is currently valued at over $2 trillion. And just to put some perspective into this, if we take a look at the AI market, which there's a lot of hype, the AI market is predicted to reach nearly $2 trillion by 2030, according to Grandview Research. Again, that's just a projection, but then the payments market is already valued at over $2 trillion currently. It doesn't have to wait another 5 years. So I think that, if anything, kind of puts some perspective into the scale of the payments market, especially when compared to AI. So when I take a look at something like Reserve, I get it. It may not be the most interesting or cool project to some people out there, but for me, I like the fundamentals, I like what it's trying to do, and I like the impact that it's kind of making. Again, I don't think the adoption is the best, and also I don't think the popularity is the best, but I do like it nonetheless, and I'm very excited in terms of what RSR could hypothetically become during a fully fledged type of altcoin season, and also the long-term future, because I don't think Reserve is this project that's just gonna disappear, because I like the fundamentals, I like the team, so I'm gonna stay patient, just dollar cost average hold, and I just wait. And whenever that time frame is, when altcoin season really does begin, hypothetically, if it ever does, I want to be prepared for it by just holding and just waiting, and that's pretty much it. But I am a fan of Reserve, and also, of course, RSR. I just find it very interesting. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I would greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.